Well, I swore I was going to do something with my theater degree one day. Yep, departmental honors, magna cum laude, a bachelor's degree forged from 4 years of hard work and long rehearsal hours, so I might as well finally give myself something to show for it. Theater is certainly an art form. Even a pretty important one, too. It was, after all, the one truly complete form of storytelling, letting audiences actually see and hear characters play out narratives before them, and remain the only such form for, like, this much of human history? So it's safe to say that pretty much every piece of media you've consumed at any point in your life has, at some point along its long DNA sequence of influence, found itself struggling and failing to dust off the glitter from the theater kids.
Because the first dramas were associated with Dionysian rituals, which involved alcohol and pansexual frenzy.
Pansexual frenzy!
And hey, even with the advent of film and TV and literally whatever the fuck it is I'm doing right now, theater is still around. It's even pretty good sometimes. There's a connection, a forced focus that comes from sharing the same physical space as a performance that simply cannot be replicated, and the best works of theater often take advantage of this. Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind in Chicago, and Sleep No More at New York's McKintrick Hotel go whole hog on this in wildly divergent ways, and both remain among my favorite and most memorable artistic experiences, period. Even more traditional theater is full of plenty of bangers, with everyone from Sondheim to Beckett to McDonough's cranky ass pumping out resonant, affecting works without leaning into the audience's presence. On the other hand, theater as an art form is also very much informed by its realities as a business. And fuck me, there are a ton of realities. A film wraps post-production, sends out its final cut, and it's pretty much all profit from that point on. Theater's very nature necessitates a fresh performance every time, a full day of work from every actor on stage, and for every actor, countless stagehands and assistants laundering costumes, calling cues, operating specialized equipment, and navigating emotional labor in the dressing rooms. Each day of a show's run is another day of rent for your performance space, or, if you own the theater, a massive spike in your power bill, as millions of volts of electricity provide the perfect climactic stage picture for your Wizard of Oz fanfiction. And all those lights are naturally going to bump up the heat in the room, putting an even greater strain on the AC, which, of course, needs to be a specialty model that runs quietly enough not to drown out the performance. Oh, and did I mention that rights for shows are typically paid for per performance?
The fact is, we're broke.
So yeah, theater has a lot more pressure for a show to make back its own money on a night-to-night or at least week-to-week basis. This is why the coolest stuff is often niche local productions, whereas the higher the budget, the more the Hollywood problem crops up. You know, the ceaseless homogenization by committee in a desperate bid by investors to maximize appeal, the countless years of development hell? Well, they call them workshops, but it's the same idea. Broadway is this to an extreme, especially as high production costs lead to high ticket prices, lead to higher audience expectations, leading to increasingly higher production values ad infinitum. A show that makes it to Broadway often spent at least a decade in workshops after spending a previous decade being pitched around. It's why the biggest and most relevant hip-hop musical to ever exist at this point has bars that are on the level of the, Sugar Hill Gang.
I'm rapping all day and I'm rapping all night. I'm rapping to the beat and I rap it up tight. I rap in the morning and I rap till I'm done. And everybody knows that I'm number one. Cause I'm rapping, I'm rapping.
It's worth noting that I've been talking more and more about musicals as I've talked about the higher budget end of things. And that would likely be the case even if I weren't trying. The fact of the matter is, the musical utterly dominates the Broadway and larger theater landscape. Musicals are inherently more expensive productions, with additional rights to buy, an orchestra to employ, and more specific talents required by the casting. This spikes ticket prices, but audiences are far more likely to shell out for them because they know what they're getting. Cast recordings are the perfect marketing tool, allowing audiences to not only confirm that they will indeed enjoy the music in the show, but obviously leaving an incomplete picture of the scenes. It turns out that you can practically give away a vast majority of a work's content, and people will gladly pay to see the rest if they dig it. Musicals are inherently marketable, and have a rabidly devoted fanbase, so if you're going to sink a ton of capital into a project, a musical is likely to provide a better, if slightly riskier, ROI. And if you're studying theater, they're fucking inescapable, and you'll be forced to nod along to cast recordings for a large portion of your education.
Where'd you go to school? Choate.
Ow, 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 ow.
And hey, I'm not trying to be an utter pedantic hipster here. There are some great and popular and influential musicals out there, and there are even a few amongst those that I don't actively dislike. There are also plenty more that simply have music I find obnoxious, and aside from that, undoubtedly have a lot to dig into and appreciate, and I'm sure I could unearth something worth talking about, but I don't wanna. I'm really just leading you down this here path to explain why, in the modern theatrical landscape, musicals are so goddamn prevalent. And, with the high pressure to make back the money it costs just to run a show, a vast majority of popular musicals are simply adaptations of other popular works.
More recently, musicals have been based on movies like Shrek, The Little Mermaid, and Harry Potter. Billy Elliot, The King of the Bear, The Lion King, Legally Blonde, Nine Ross, Family, Get From the Gang.
God, really?
Sister.
Movies made good musicals?
Well, they make musicals.
Which is to say that when I learned that the anime stage musical has been around for a few good decades in Japan, I thought, sure, yeah, that tracks. So, there's a Sailor Moon musical.
Sure, why not?
Like, there are actually several.
Sure, why not?
Like a lot.
Sure, why not?
And I read this and I figured, yeah, that all totally checks out.
I guess.
Learning there was a Bleach musical raised an eyebrow, though. But I haven't actually read a single chapter or watched a single episode, and I'm not exactly feeling the call, so probably gonna give that one a pass. Hunter x Hunter, though, well, that is certainly a choice.
Let's fill our glasses. Toast our players. And all get drunk on theater.
Hunter x Hunter is really fucking good. Like, an arguable masterpiece? I love Yu Yu Hakusho nearly and dearly, and I rewatch at least the Dark Tournament arc practically every year, but Hunter x Hunter is on another level. It's consistently capable of providing genuine surprise, palpable tension, and inevitably reduces me to a pathetic weeping bitch puddle at the end of the Chimera Ant arc every time. I don't need to tell you how good it is. Countless electrons have already been fired off over the series of tubes that form the panopticon we call home, expressing that exact point. What I will say is that, in terms of shonen battle manga, when considering a musical adaptation, Hunter x Hunter actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, no, hear me out for a second. So just in terms of art, Hunter x Hunter has an incredible variety of character designs, both in body type and fashion. It makes the world feel massive and diverse, but also results in groups of closely related characters who look like they could be from completely different shows. The only consistent stylistic unity, at least towards the beginning of the series, is in tone. Bright, colorful, and expressive. The early chapters and episodes of Hunter x Hunter have casts that could easily blend into a kids' show. The series really takes its sweet time ramping up the audience's understanding of just how, fucked things are gonna get. This lulling the series does, making the audience feel this false sense of security, is often an aspect Hunter x Hunter is lauded for, and is pretty ripe territory for a musical to explore. The lack of a need for a unified aesthetic, combined with the often outlandish designs of the characters from the source material, should be a blank check for a costume designer to go absolutely ham. But the narrative and plot mechanics also lend themselves really well to musical adaptation. The world of Hunter x Hunter is built around exemplifying talent, characters with big ambitions and bigger personalities who fanatically devote themselves to a single esoteric pursuit. You could even, have a hunter who's really into music. That could be their thing. They have, a Nen power that's based on music, and they can maybe have, a music-related goal, and maybe even a music-related name or something. I mean, the series is full of diversions and side quests anyways. It would be so easy to pull the cast into, a weird adventure with, I don't know, Harmony the Music Hunter, right? And just have that be your plot. I'm assuming if there was a character like that in the manga, they probably would have just gone that route because it makes too much sense not to do, right? Kinda weird that there's no Music Hunter or anything. Togashi should really get on that. Hunter x Hunter also happens to be the rare shonen battle manga that doesn't rely on violence for all of its battles. Sometimes you play dodgeball, sometimes it's a hostage negotiation, sometimes it's just a friendly forgery lesson. The series is full of tense dramatic situations, at times aided by the creativity the Nen system allows for, that don't necessarily have life or death stakes. All this is to say that there's a lot for you to work with here in terms of content that could be staged in an interesting way. And hey, Hunter x Hunter even has a shit ton of internal monologue, and that's basically what 90% of songs are in musicals anyway. Okay, sure, a lot of shonen battle manga have internal monologue, but they can often be boiled down to, oh no, they're so strong. But Sorry demo, character motivation, I must win.
I don't know you!
Here we still have plenty of tense inner thoughts at pivotal moments, but the situations are often far more complex, the decisions more unexpected, and the process by which a character arrives at said decisions more telling. Togashi is clever enough to write subtext into even a character's inner thoughts, giving these internal monologues enough depth to potentially fill an entire song. Gon and Killua's friendship seems and even is truly heartwarming, but time and time again, the series shows how toxic that can simultaneously be. It's one of my favorite aspects to the series, and one of the many ways Hunter x Hunter shows a sunny face only to later expose a dark underside, and again, this is prime musical territory. So yeah, things are looking up just on a conceptual level. And, I mean, well, again, if they had some sort of Music Hunter character lying around all developed and underutilized, then they'd have an easy slam dunk for an original plotline. Lots of the series itself is still ripe for adaptation. I mean, if we're talking about deep and dramatic internal monologues, the Palace Invasion could be its own opera. And by opera, I mean like the Ring Cycle, and even then you need to trim a whole lot of fat to fit this thing into even a 12-hour time frame. That'd also be without all the exposition necessary to make any of this work. I mean, this is a terrible idea. But tell me you wouldn't want to hear one of Poof's emotional self-flagellations as like a jaunty ragtime number, or the classic "Anything You Can Do, My Mere Presence Invalidates."
Oh, you can.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, York New would be a fun arc to adapt. You could even treat the audience like the crowd at the Underground Mafia auction, and it'd basically be the opening of the Phantom of the Opera. Honestly, I think the best and most obvious arc to adapt would be a highly condensed, trimmed-down version of the Hunter exam. It's the first arc, so you wouldn't need much or anything in the way of exposition, and the parents that children have dragged to the show won't be entirely lost trying to figure out their child's Nen category. Plus, the theater world has already given you a solid blueprint for how to do this story, just do a chorus line, but with murder. Has anybody done that? Somebody has to have done that already. In reality, what we're going to be looking at here today is the Kukuru Mountain arc, where Gon and Co. journey to Killua's family's estate to rescue their new friend, and yeah, this is actually a really solid choice. It's early on enough in the story to not require much exposition, it's a short enough arc that you don't actually have to trim much for time's sake, it's pretty much free of fight scenes, but instead a series of varied challenges and a driving conflict that's ultimately emotional. This is all perfect for a musical adaptation. Hunter x Hunter: The Nightmare of Zoldyck ran in 2002 and stars much of the cast of the original 1999 OVA adaptation, particularly the main four of Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio. I can't find much other production information out there, at least not in a language I can read, but there's still plenty to talk about in terms of the actual content. I'll be experiencing it through an official DVD recording of the original performance, kindly uploaded to YouTube by BSD Bibliophile. We open with a nice title card and a shot of Kukuru Mountain that is probably a DVD-only flourish as the sound of bells pulls our focus to a darkened stage. We get a quick flashback to Gon's confrontation with Illumi at the end of the Hunter exam, slowly lit in cool blues while backlit with a bright display of intense red. Illumi immediately takes this opportunity to hit us with our first song, Passionless Puppet of Darkness. It's an ominous little number that seems to represent the programming Killua has been through at Illumi's hands. You kill people, you can't have friends, you're
living in a world of darkness.
It feels a little weird how he's singing to Gon but clearly addressing Killua in the second person, and can be a little disorienting until you figure out what's going on. For all I know, this could be just a translation thing, not even in the sense that the translation is bad, more that Japanese is, from what I understand, a very complex and formal language with grammatical rules drastically different from English. This is why translated song lyrics can especially come across as stunted or amateurish or overly formal, and trying to rhyme on top of all of that would probably be a nightmare as well, so I'm not going to harp too much on any lyrics or lines that come across as weird. Still, the song has some strong dungeon synth vibes, and establishes the emotional stakes of the story pretty obviously when Illumi directly addresses Killua after the traditional musical theater mid-song dialogue break. It's kind of hard to tell here, especially with the fade the DVD puts in, but Killua's positioned upstaged on a raised platform in his little family funtime punishment rack. And Gon acknowledges it too, desperately running to him but unable to reach. It's the kind of thing that, again, you could only really do on stage. If we were to try to replicate this moment on film or in an anime, Illumi would be pulling out some sort of video feed of Killua, but on stage we don't really question the mechanics of how a sequence like this works. It's a key component of theater, and particularly musical theater. The inherent limitations of what can realistically be accomplished on stage, plus the increased personal investment from being there in person, result in a higher suspension of disbelief that allows directors to get away with a lot more in terms of artsy flourishes. It's why avant-garde theater can work so well at times. You're far more primed to stop questioning small details and just go along for the ride.
Hey world. My name is Christopher Moore and I'm a special person. I have a special desire to show the world special things about myself. And I've got things to do in this town. And when
This leads directly into his second verse, wherein Illumi shows Gon just what Killua's life as an assassin entails. Ensemble members dance their way on stage, barely lit under the cool blues of the downlights, only to be fully lit in red the moment they're cut down with a nice little anime sound effect, and the screams of their families. Oh fuck, I think they just killed a kid, damn, this really is Hunter x Hunter. The presentation here allows Gon to run around and react to these deaths without actually being able to intercede, which really aids the sense of urgency. The song crescendos with a second chorus and some Bayonetta tier murder voguing. Oh, get it! Get it! Get it! It's not a bad song, and the presentation immediately establishes the goal and the stakes of rescuing Killua. The lighting is a little on the nose, but it's stark and decisive. I do really dig the FF10 prog rock kooky little keyboard chaos that goes on towards the end here too. As the party gangs up to try and rescue Kill, Illumi insta-kills Leorio and Kurapika, and Killua falls into insane, broken laughter. A distraught Gon centers himself downstage, faces the audience, and lets out a perfectly staged shonen scream of despair. Holy fuck, look at that stage picture. The red backlighting looking like wings for a moment, giving a real DMC5 cover art vibe to Gon before it's dissolved in a harsh backlighting of ominous figures, standing still, silent. And it's all a dream. Gon fell asleep on the bus. Now that we actually have lighting on this scene, the sacrifices made for that neat stage picture become apparent. The wagon they're using to represent the bus is too small, too crowded, aimed dead center straight at the audience, and forces Gon to be in front of it for his scene, which in turn causes many of the following lines to be delivered upstage, with no chance for the audience to see his face. The bus itself has 3-seat rows, and the driver is just barely off-center, meaning that for at least 30 to 40% of the audience, he's completely blocking everything happening behind him. They've pushed Leorio back a row to try and combat this and keep him more centered, but with the tour guide and ensemble members getting up from their seats and walking around, it's an incredibly messy and hard-to-read stage picture. The platform of the overstuffed bussy wouldn't be such an issue if they just put that shit on an angle. We get right into a nice jaunty song to pick up the energy and slip us back into that comfortable early Hunter x Hunter tone with Kukuru Mountain, a fun little number that contrasts the gang's willingness to take on these challenges with the public perception of this scary family of assassins. The staging physicalizes this by finally breaking out of the bus and separating into two groups for a little call and response and some simply choreographed movement. The melodies in the song admittedly feel a little lazy, and like the first thing that popped into the composer's mind for these words. But as previously established, I honestly really do not in any way come close to enjoying the vast majority of music in musicals, so I'm going to try my best to not let that poison the well here and judge these based on how well they accomplish what they set out to do and not my own personal taste. That being said, I am but a man, and my complaints shall inevitably leak forth from me like a fart from a barely corked whoopee cushion. At the very least, they managed to cover moving the wagon off stage when Creaky McSqueakums, the bus driver, announces the engine stalled. R.I.P. overstuffed Bussy.
A time for the bus ride, sunshine day, a time for the bus ride, fun time day, a time for the bus ride. No!
To cover for the scene transition, we have Miluki take the stage for his introductory number, Cute Fatty. His entire song is performed in the time it takes him to cross the stage backwards in his gamer chair, and its lyrical content basically amounts to, I am the fat man, I do the lazy, I see the e-girl, and I get the boner. At the very least, it doesn't waste our time reiterating any of these points more than thrice. I won't say that I don't relate on some primal lizard brain level, but the clown music doesn't really make me proud of that fact. Miluki's cross does make for a nice pulling of focus for Gon & Co to emerge from where Miluki started his song, continuing the visual movement of the musical as a whole and transitioning between scenes without any downtime. Now that the gang is finally using the whole stage for once, we can talk about the lack of set. Like I said, I don't have a lot of information about the production itself, but with how bare everything looks, I can assume that this was a touring show. That would, after all, make the most sense in terms of maximizing potential profits from such a niche property. Touring shows have more expenses to consider in terms of transporting sets, lights, and other technology, and all of that needs to be adaptable enough to work with a variety of performance spaces and electrical systems. Thus, this is a very sparse staging, with a mostly blank proscenium arch and a bit of an apron extending beyond that. From what I can tell, it doesn't appear to be a thrust, which is why they can comfortably stage so much of it dead on facing the audience, even if that sometimes provides a less than effective staging regardless. As for the set itself, there's at least 2 entrances on each side, some staircases, but actual set pieces seem to be brought on and off a la carte. So far, we've seen the bus wagon and Killua's torture tower, both of which seem to have been designed to just be swallowed into the rest of the stage. Most of the stage is painted pure black, which is fine for letting it slip out of the audience's mind, but absolutely eats up the lighting. And without so much as a backdrop, the lights are forced to provide the entire visual tone from scene to scene, and it's struggling. Again, a backdrop or 3 would help greatly, and this scene right here would benefit from the testing gate looming over it. I don't know, maybe dropping a scrim every once in a while to separate stage action, something like that, but it appears as if this tour was designed to never rely on a fly system. It's unfortunate, but sometimes it's just what you have to deal with. At least we have some nice gobos in for a leafy pattern on the floor to remind us we're out in nature. Anyways, the cast is either pushing on the back wall of the stage, or the video quality isn't letting me see the testing gate, in which case that's still probably a failure on the set designer's part. I can guarantee you some octogenarian whose grandchild dragged her to this show has eyesight far worse than 360p. We get some, comedy. We learned about the Zoldycks guard dog, Mike, in the song named after him, sung by the friendly buff gatekeeper. We get a little bit of ominous rock and roll here, and hey, there's the gate! Thanks, lighting! Amazing what you can do when you use colors other than red and blue. I'm not gonna lie, the music's clearly trying to be spoopy here, giving me some big Ganon's Tower vibes, but the guard's performance really tells me this is just a job to him. This song is kind of like the absolute nadir of musical theater to me. Just some fucking dude half-heartedly singing nakedly expository dialogue at me. I get the sense that this guy is kind of bummed that his one big non-ensemble solo number is this untoasted slice of whole grain, but I don't know. I feel like the director should have given this some more stakes. You like Killua, these are his friends, you don't want him to die, give your warning some oomph, man.
Jazz hands and Eye of the Tiger.
Jazz hands, Eye of the Tiger, look like I'm hungry and
You know how to do a grapevine? You know how to do a grapevine?
I'm not going to say that this guy's a bad actor because I don't like making that sort of generalized condemnation. I will say that he gives a bad performance, something whose fault can just as easily lie in the director, the material, or simply that specific evening of the show. Maybe they already ran a matinee this morning and they're exhausted, who knows? Either way, this song falls flatter than it should have, and doesn't even do like a giant Avenue Q Mike hand reaching over the door, which I had unreasonably convinced myself they would try and pull off. The crew leaves for training while we get our first big change from the source material. The bus driver's back, and it's the last person you'd ever want in charge of a bus that's transporting children. Yeah, Hisoka's here, played by his original 1999 VA, and rocking the blue hair from the same OVA while he's at it. And oh shit, the testing doors work! Hey, Lighting learned a new color! Oh, look at those poses! This guy knows what he's doing, alright! Miluki shows up again to just full-on introduce his family to the audience, but not until after a quick reprise of the repetitive song he already belted at you 5 minutes ago. The following sequence still more or less works, and is nice and fun and theatrical. Illumi just kinda does his thing, which we're all familiar with by this point. Zeno's fun and spry and does a backflip every day of his life.
Every single day of my life. No, you don't!
Mama Zoldyck and Kaluto just kinda hang out and fail to characterize themselves in any fucking way beyond "we are also cool with murder," which was kind of a given. And Big Daddy Silva Fox maybe doesn't have quite as booming of a baritone as this moment was supposed to musically warrant. Oh man, the lighting's red because they're evil. Yeah, getting real avant-garde with it, huh? Family is a short song and barely accomplishes what it's supposed to. Miluki stands up and dabs at the end. This transitions into a family meeting that feels a little overstaged. Lots of characters pacing around or making unmotivated crosses just for the sake of keeping up visual interest in a scene that barely lasts 30 seconds, by the end of which the entire family is returned to the seats they'd just gotten out of. It adds to the clutter for what's about to be, or at least intends to be, a nice little ballad from Killua, I dreamed a dreaming his days away in the PTSD pit. Killua's feelings is kind of nice, short and sweet, very expository. This is what I meant about the translation thing. The backlit family in their chairs makes for a really nice foreground for Killua to be singing this over, which is why it's a shame that they keep breaking up the staging for Miluki to get up and take down center with a dumb cutaway that kills the song's momentum and doesn't really give us much more than another fat joke. I do like Mama Zoldyck getting up and pacing around in the ensuing argument after the song. It lends her a nice chaotic energy and visually communicates to the audience that she's maybe less than stable. The costume design is fully on display here, a mostly faithful recreation of the 1999 color scheme, which is fine if not super visually unified. I do definitely prefer the uniform dark purples the family wears in the 2010 adaptation, but we'll take it. Either way, they all have a good evil laugh about how Gon and Co will never reach them in a scene that acts as basically one of the villain meeting scenes from the original Kingdom Hearts. Ooh boy, this is just some standard-ass evil transition music. Alright, so Killua's finally down on stage level, hanging out in the BDSM bungalow where the family's apparently strapped him to a gardening trellis. Get up! It's the classic scene where he taunts and baits Miluki while taking a whooping, only The shots we see here have me worried that the audience had no chance of ever taking these stage combat slaps seriously. It doesn't help that he's smacking Killua in the face, but they're still playing whip sounds. Killua tries and acts tough. And Illumi comes back in to reinforce the previous assassin programming he'd inflicted on Kill. Illumi's song, The Answer Is Here, quickly turns into a semi-reprise of the opening, which works really nicely. I like the idea of manifesting Illumi's hypnotism musically as a leitmotif. There's a solid use of the medium and makes for an effective end to the scene. Killua acquiesces and retreats to his massa wagon for Can't Meet Right Now, a transitional number along the lines of Sad Quick Christmas Song. Grandpa comes in to comfort young Keel, who seems to get back on the torture horse. And Illumi meets with Hisoka because we still need to find places to fit Hisoka into the narrative. It's just a transitional bit of dialogue that allows for Gon and Ko to enter from stage left as they have been for most of the show. Somewhere in the midst of the Zoldycks song, we got a quick scene transition, bringing in some nondescript platforms to create some vertical levels and add some staging variety, which is a nice change. It certainly helped the introduction of the Zoldycks, and gives us a sense that the party has moved further along in their journey, as the hungry adventurers come across an apple tree. Oh, you remember the famous apple tree scene from the Kukuru Mountain arc, don't you? No? Well, that's because it's time for Hisoka to do his swing. Under the big apple tree sees Hisoka posing, prancing, and Scooby-Doo sneaking around as he audibly nuts, singing about how he cannot wait till this delicious, juicy little apple ripens and can be plucked. It's not new territory for the character by any means, it's just a little weird hearing the audience wholesomely chuckle at this casual groomer fantasy. At least Gon has the right idea. Leo Rio follows suit too, even if he doesn't know why. Thankfully, this breaks us out of our filler reverie and back into the source material with one of my personal favorite scenes of this arc. The encounter with Canary. Wait, that's after the testing gates. When did they get past the testing gates? Oh. Guess the whole training arc was off stage then. Wasn't it going to take a month? Whatever, Canary's here now, which... Okay, so maybe the wig doesn't look great, but I mean, thank God they have more sense about use of makeup than Justin Trudeau. So Canary shows up and says that the party will not be allowed to cross this here line. Well, that's a very short line. No, I know this scene. I like this scene. This scene is perfect for musical adaptation, and that line you drew is important. You have a very clear, defined, obvious staging. There is a line, and Gon cannot cross it or he will be struck. The music can crescendo as Gon forces himself across the line time and time again, receiving his punishment at each step but never backing down, all the while slowly breaking down Canary's resistance via his sheer will, his perseverance, his undying love and concern for his best friend. This scene is perfect and so right for this exact kind of production, an unfaltering sense of willpower versus a loyal and committed warrior tormented by an ever-building self-doubt, the conflict between an unstoppable force and a once immovable object. That line Canary draws is the fulcrum around which this entire sequence turns. It should be massive, important, highlighted, clearly defined. It's the point in space the entire upcoming song or scene is going to be built around. Hell, lighting should be supporting this too. I understand if that would be a pretty hard mark to hit every night, but a little spike take goes a long way. You can make this work. This has the potential to be a really gripping number. I will say I'm a little disappointed that Canary's also coming in from stage left. Gon and Co have consistently been entering stage left and exiting stage right, save for when they had to head back for their training arc. For the uninitiated amongst you, stage left and stage right are based on the actor's perspective. This is, I'm told, because actors are stupid sheep in need of hurting, and directors are magnanimous beings free from ego who are willing to sacrifice their own perspective for the sake of being better able to communicate with the semi-literate. My focus in theater was indeed writing and directing, so I do know what I'm talking about here and approach this free of bias. Anyways, this constant progression of the characters moving right to left from the audience's perspective was a nice little through line that evoked reading manga in a superficial but clever way. Anytime Gon and Co moved left, they were progressing the story and their journey, and the canary scene makes me think that maybe that was all just me reading too much into the staging. But whatever, she's here and thankfully not in blackface, and now we're gonna get to see Gon get beat up and cry a little because his love for his friend is so great and pure. Okay, so like the sound effect here and the placement of the line are all pretty iffy, but Canary looks confident and imposing and committed, and Gon sells the hit really well. I'd love to be able to see the line to help me, like, anticipate the strike every time it comes, build the tension, you know, really help the scene live up to its potential, but it can still survive on performances wait. Why did the director send Leopika downstage? Why are the two people who are going to react to all this facing away from the audience? Wait, why are they standing? Why are they blocking the foreground of an ostensibly 2D sequence? Could you imagine this shit in Street Fighter? Oh, Canary's moving upstage so they... Wait, why is Canary moving? Did the line move? No, wait, why are you moving again?
No, he's ruining it!
The staging was in the source material! While we're at it, shouts out to this dorky fucking combo. If you so desperately needed the staging to move throughout this song, you could have had Gon consistently push Canary further and further back, taking more ground, but no, it's a series of unmotivated crosses that reek of... I don't know, the director just told me to go upright for this line. Absurd or just incompetent. I do admittedly like having Canary center stage for her last line, having her turn around the face of the crew is fine, but this little post-snipe stumble is weak as fuck and just acts as a laughable piece of punctuation on top of a really poorly executed scene. To follow the biggest bungle of the evening, Keel's mom and sister discourage the group, and then Kikyo gives the first of the play's many throat-destroying black metal banshee wails. Gon's phone call to the head butler is pulled off pretty well, at least. I like his little cross away from the rest of the party before going all in on yelling, and having the butlers just appear makes for a seamless transition. We get some real Yu Yu Hakusho-ass synth for our fight scene music, and the lighting shift makes this feel exactly like an RPG battle screen transition, which is kinda neat. They aren't so much dance fighting as they are doing very sparse fight choreography that isn't even particularly on beat. I do like watching Gon and Leorio get tossed around here though, it is kinda cute. The camera cuts away from what I'm assuming is probably some very basic filler choreography so we can give Kurapika some time to shine, but it all feels pretty stilted. There are some whiff sound effects on some very unmotivated, questionable strikes that really start to feel Vic Berger-esque. And the synchronized Dark Soulsing is kind of impressive, but doesn't feel particularly threatening or dancey for that matter. At the very least, it's not intimidating enough to make this line not hilarious. The music climaxes in a pretty hilarious build of tension as Canary is finally brought out on stage as a hostage, and we get into what's actually likely to be a fun, easy to accomplish little novelty sequence. The coin game should be very simple to make not bad, and should still work in the context of a musical. Oh, thank fucking God, I was really losing hope after the Canary scene. Oh, fucking get it, dude, yeah. The music here is actually tense and catchy and energetic and feels like a fun, adventurous quiz show. I'm also personally contractually obligated to set at least one of these dances to Meshuggah, so let's just get that out of the way. After Mecha Shiva-ing their way into a final pose, the coin game ends as a really solid flex from the ensemble. Fucking horseplay. Gon writes Killua a quick letter, the contents of which he sings to the audience as everyone else transitions out. Dear Killua is sweet, earnest, and shows a lot of restraint from the director. The staging here just has Junko Takeuchi plant her feet and carry the song through sheer, heartfelt charisma. Partway through, we do bring lights up on Killua in his Tower of Titillation, reading the letter, but he does little aside from standing partway through the song, which says enough on its own and doesn't pull any focus. Zeno enters, tells Kill to go talk to his dad, and the scene ends, quietly, simply, and with enough breathing room for the previous ballad to hit. Again, it's a great showing of directorial restraint and makes for a nice contrast as some bombastic transition music brings us to Silva's chambers. Oh, that sounds real bad. Oh man, that has to be fucking up her throat. This isn't metal screaming or anything, this just sounds legitimately painful, like it has no breath support behind it. Bro, please engage your fucking diaphragm, you have to sing in 2 lines. Oh no, I am so sorry, dude. Either she was cast out of her range or was pushing her chords way too hard in the scene leading up to this. It doesn't matter, that's the whole song and it's not a really great first solo for her. The song itself also just really didn't need to be there. I don't think we got anything out of that we didn't already know from this scene. It's just kind of a waste of everyone's time and a poor showing for this poor actor. Oh god, my director brain's not gonna let this go. Killua seems like way too immediately comfortable when he enters the scene with his dad. Like, Silva maybe didn't have the most commanding basso profondo during his introduction. But like, he's not a bad singer, and his speaking voice absolutely carries. And Killua, on the other hand, just got done being beaten into submission. He got a nice letter afterwards, sure, but as of right now, he doesn't necessarily think of seeing his friends as an option. There should be some trepidation when he steps on stage, a little hesitation before he answers any of his father's questions, a little breathing room between the lines as he tries to read the tone and adjust. This is another scene that I really love in the anime adaptation. You can tell that when Killua says the exam was easy, it's in part because he's just trying to impress his dad. But when he realizes his father wants an actual conversation with him, there's a nice little beat where you see the shift take place, and suddenly it cuts to Killua excitedly telling stories about his new best friend. We don't have the benefit of the cutaway here, but we also never get that beat, that release of tension, because there was never any tension here to begin with. Instead, we get If I'm Not There, a bizarre mess of tone and emotion. It does feature Killua excitedly talking up his best friend Gon, but also has him questioning his entire family's profession and the way he was raised in the same breath to his father's face with the exact same smiling, happy-go-fucky delivery. Since Killua showed up during Gon's song, Gon decides to return the favor, telling Canary about the first time he met Killua. That really was all it took, wasn't it? Okay, this post-high five acting is like real on the nose here. Gon pretty much confesses to not actually paying attention to anything Killua says about himself, which is at least true to the character, but I have no idea what he's supposed to be doing with his hands here. Meanwhile, Silva's good dad speech rides a weird line between ominous and triumphant. Based on some stuff from the manga and anime, that kind of tracks, but here it just comes across as a little off. Keel and his dad have a little too much energy in their conversations here, and the brief one after this song, wherein Silva makes his son promise to never betray his friends, is the same way. Again, it could certainly use a little more breathing room. Just a beat or two to let the emotional arc of the scene sink in. As is, however, it's rushed, and any goodwill it may have built up is quickly obliterated by the sound laser that is Kikyo. Come on, you're gonna have her react like that and not do a music sting or a lighting change or something here? That's just minimal effort. I mean, a quick lighting change on its own could give this moment like half the visual impact of a JoJo sequence. Whatever, Killua is singing out the promise he just made and he's heading back to meet up with Gon and Co. Various characters pop on stage to belt out their emotional state for a line or two, a musical theater climax building technique that my brain immediately browns out for. By the time I regain my senses, Gon and Killua have linked back up. That's your fucking reunion high five. Keel briefly trolls the others before everyone's favorite unnecessarily buff expositor returns to invite everyone to a party at the Zoldycks estate. While the gang heads off to prepare, Zeburo asks Killua to stay behind before whispering something to him that makes him go all floppy sloppy. As Killua leaves, Zeburo turns away from us, removing what the sound design implies to be the familiar needles used by Illumi to change his face. We hear Illumi speak an ominous warning before stepping up stage, his frame casting a shadow over the audience via the stark red backlight as all else fades.
Oh my goodness! Somebody's gonna get in trouble. Watch with me, won't you? As the blood thickens.
And we're at intermission. Yeah, we're only halfway there, and well, from here on out, it's all full-on original content, baby. That's right, half of this is theater-only filler. This is the musical equivalent of Full Metal Alchemist 2003. So stretch your legs and go buy an overpriced cocktail or a glass of wine. The theater makes significantly higher profit margins off concessions than they do on ticket sales. Alright, buckle up, motherfuckers. Gon's in a tuxedo. Leorio's in a more traditional Japanese haori and hakama combo, which the audience seems to find hilarious. I won't pretend to understand why. I had to Google the names of those articles of clothing in the first place. Kurapika's in a suit, which... yeah, that sounds about right. Kinda sucks for everyone else to show up after and get fucking nothing from the audience, but what do you expect? You're following the Bishi in a fucking musical. Killua does get a fresh tux of his own that contrasts nicely with Gon's, but the rest of the family were apparently already wearing their Sunday best when we saw them earlier. Costume department can only afford so much after all. Leorio, in a desperate bid for relevance, gives the people what they want. It succeeds. It's a fun and breezy little waltz sequence for the audience to have a nice laugh or two and have some fun fan service while they settle back into their seats. The cast dances a little and has a nice toast up stage before a translucent curtain is drawn, creating a sort of balcony area. It's a nice look and makes for a few good scene transitions. Kaluto has a creepy little solo that seems to indicate some loneliness of her own. Gon shows up to chat, but before they can even really interact, Kikyo black metal shrieks out an order from offstage. The The waltz theme continues as the characters swap out one-on-one conversations on the balcony. Zeno and Gon have a laugh. Killua makes otaku jokes about Miluki. Leorio acknowledges that he's the worst without falling into a total inferiority complex.
Every single day of my life.
Meanwhile, on brand as ever, Kurapika is being analytical and the only competent one here and is thus already suspicious of Ilumi's whereabouts. Finally, all four on the balcony, and Big Daddy Zoldyck steps out to give Gon a free punch at him just for funsies. Silva lets the gang depart, at which point there is mention of a hot spring, prompting Leorio to shamelessly thirst trap the fangirls. Kikyo continues to speak in the only register that is apparently available to her, while Miluki continues to get the one joke that he's had to work with this entire show. As the family begins to depart the stage, Silva and Zeno remain, discussing Gon and making reference to some vague plan Illumi is in the process of carrying out. However, they both feel a presence and call out to their unseen observer to reveal themselves. That's right, Hisoka's still here and he gets his slinky-ass, MIDI, pan-flute, Zaytoven-ass, shredding synth solo as he proudly announces his erection. And that can only mean one thing for Hisoka. Yeah, that's right. You thought Corolla was a good fight for the Zoldycks? This is Silva and Zeno versus fucking Hisoka. Manga dream matchup buried 10 minutes into the filler second act of the Hunter x Hunter musical. Oh, fuck!
Ha! Ha! You want to touch me?
It's everything I ever could have dreamed of.
Ha! Ha! Nice! Huh! You're not Alexander! Whip it! Whip it good! Awesome!
Jacob?
Oh god, yeah, okay, so, like, there's some fighting here, but a lot of it is literally just flips and show choir lifts. While they're certainly impressive and pulled off with confidence and aplomb, there's usually not even an attempt to, like, have it look like they're trying to dodge things. None of the hand-to-hand stuff is even remotely on beat either, which just feels like a wasted opportunity. I don't know, you could do a lot with Nen fights as a concept just through some clever lighting and sound design and props or choreography, but I guess they didn't want to introduce that at a point where the source material hadn't yet, even though this did come out well into the Greed Island art. But even if these characters would have had Nen already, it probably still would have been too early story-wise, so they decided not to go down that road, instead of keeping it all hand-to-hand. Except, like I said, there's barely any of that, nor is there really much in the way of dance fighting or even just plain old dancing. It's basically just an asymmetrical gymnastics competition with no judge that lasts just long enough for us to learn what it sounds like when Hisoka cooms. We bring the lights back up on Gon and Killua, hanging out beneath the tree of grooming metaphors that Hisoka sang about earlier. It is nice to just watch these two hang out for a little, even if Gon's response to being asked if he likes to fish starts to hit the Kikyo register. Then they get into a tickle fight that lasts just a little too long. Gon stays down as Canary shows up for a quick flashback song, I Wanted to Be Friends, which actually adapts a piece of the source material the musical had thus far skipped over. It's a duet focusing on the first meeting of Canary and Killua, but also the worst kind of duet. The lyrics are pure, casual, informal dialogue, and the back and forth is clearly supposed to imply that this song is a conversation, but it has none of the ups and downs and tone shifts of an actual conversation song that someone like Sondheim might compose. It sounds like a standard piano ballad whose melody is just split across two singers and ultimately wastes an effective moment. The gang regroups, Killua has a little leitmotif moment, and Illumi watches on. Eventually, we get to Leorio, finally making good on his promise. Okay, they actually went out of their way to get some, fake rocks for the set here. This is the single least ambiguous piece of scenery they've had so far. They were really committed to explicitly having a hot springs sequence. The focus bounces back and forth between stage left and stage right for a bit, contrasting Kurapika and Leorio's hot tub hangout with Hisoka and Illumi's kill bro chill sesh. Illumi mentions his little bro is going to revert to being a bloodthirsty killer, and Hisoka wants to know what Killua's trigger is.
うまく考えたね。で、そのスイッチってのは？
じゃあ君がすっぴんになったら教えてあげる。
ダメだよ。
Meanwhile, Leorio's manly passion gets rebuffed by Kurapika.
この先何があっても、お前らとここに来たことを絶対に後悔しないぜ。
殺し屋一家に襲われてもか。
So he instead channels that same passion into one of the most charismatic vocal performances this show's seen yet.
あの時のキルアの顔を俺は忘れられねえ嵐や情熱の心臓を振って握りつぶしたキルアの顔
Well, damn! Sing it, blues man!
I can't get enough of that sweet music.
It's by far the catchiest and bluesiest number we've heard, carried by pure, unfiltered delivery. Hozumi Goda is in the zone, and he is ready to deliver us a hot fucking gumbo of soul. Let's bring it home with the chorus, dude. Are you fucking kidding me right now? God! Fucking... Damn it! God! Oh no, the towel thing is pretty funny, but I almost enjoyed that song. Why would you take that from me? Fuck. Also, Kurapika hits his mark way too fucking early here. What pathetic excuse for a sight gag is this? You can't tell me this is the intended timing for this gag. The joke is clearly supposed to be Kurapika barely shielding the audience from Leorio's turgidity at the very last moment, but this is just... it just looks weird. Even if it is a really good way for Leorio to make his exit. I do like the solemn music playing him out here. Wait. No. No. Don't give me the good melody if you're just going to take it away again. God damn it, it's going to be the exact same fucking thing, isn't it? Everything I love goes away. Everything I love goes away. Everything I love goes away. Everything I love. Yep, it's like if Bakami Tai built up to the chorus and then turned into fucking firework. Yuki Kaida sings nice. Hits the notes real good. Whatever. Fuck this song.
Suck my dick. Unseen.
Hisoka? いや、僕も招待されてるんだ。
そうか。
So Hisoka tells Kurapika about Killua's secret kill switch and then decides to promptly fuck off.
ただの親心さ。
However, he runs into Miluki and Kaluto in the process, giving us yet another brilliant battle of wits and words. I do kind of like this little bass solo though. You know, despite this being the joke fight, I feel like that's the closest I've seen a hit come to landing in any of the earlier Hisoka scenes. The music starts to pick up, turning into one of the dancier Shantae tracks when... Wait, what? Okay, so just to be clear here, we are doing Nen in this musical, we're just using it exclusively for this one scene. I mean, clearly the audience thinks it's worth it, so... Some of this choreography is kind of fun and really feels like Hisoka just fucking around, playing with his food, so to speak. And I vastly prefer this as a Hisoka song over, say, another barely veiled allegory for traumatizing young boys. It even manages to accomplish a single relevant plot thing in getting the party together and just letting them go off on their own for the climax's sake before jumping right back into eating up our time with spectacle. Zeno is here and he's just enjoying himself, Canary and the butlers show up, Mom gets dragged in, and I will give her props for continuing to go full cleric beast as she dances along with the rest. And finally, Illumi shows up, dancing on his own without being tethered, cutting all of Hisoka's bungee gum strings to end the number.
I do this every night with your son.
For the first time this entire performance, Hunter x Hunter, Nightmare of Zoldyck, actually takes a second to rest during a scene transition. Figures cross the stage in relative darkness under the icy sound of a MIDI chord. The set has returned to its tri-platform setup, and in the nearly silent blue, it looks even more ritualistic. A scrim is lowered, blocking the entire upper level from view, leaving the space small, intimate, even claustrophobic as the lights come up. Kurapika has already told everyone Hisoka's message. Killua seems to have already come to terms with this, but everyone else is on the floor, trying to take the news in. Kill figures the solution is obvious, and that he should simply stay away from the group for everyone else's sake. Thus, it's time for our 11 o'clock number. Named as such because Broadway shows used to start at 9 p.m., and this song would typically start about 2 hours in. The 11 o'clock is a high-energy, climactic song intended to propel the protagonist through the last few scenes of the show while also injecting enough adrenaline into the audience to keep them awake for it. Leorio and Kurapika team up to hit Killua with a quick duet about how they're never going to give him up. It's a little awkward. The cymbal crash on the MIDI drums sounds weak as fuck, and the singers back-to-back this melody that scrapes both the top of Leorio's range and the bottom of Kurapika's. Killua demands that if he ever becomes a murderer again, the gang kill him, prompting Gon to pull himself out of his slump and join the number, giving some real Trinity limit energy as they build to what might be the first real harmony this show's seen. Killua accepts that he has some great friends, after which point... what happened? Okay, let's roll back the footage. It looks like... Okay, so he taps Gon on the shoulder, and then walks up stage and starts to double over... Or... Is Leo punching him in the chest there? Is that what this sound effect is supposed to be? Why did they stage it like this? And not to be that anime fan, but in what fucking realm, in what possible permutation of universes does Leorio knock out Killua with a single gut punch? Illumi gets a sweet theatrical entrance here that I'm actually really into. This staging is really solid, with Illumi's casual pose not sacrificing his vertical dominance over the other characters. They're all focused upstage, faces away from the audience, pretty much guaranteeing our focus will be on Pinhead himself. And he continues to own the scene, revealing that Killua's hatred and fear for him is the actual switch. Oh, guess Killua's awake now. Well, at least Gon gets to give a... Illumi promises that Killua will break free of the spell if he can ever overcome his own programming to never fight someone stronger than himself. That's pretty bold, considering the filler movies didn't even make an attempt at moving Killua past that trauma, so I guess if this musical delivers, it might preempt a lot of the character development Killua already had in the manga by this point, but at the same time will be significantly better than Phantom Rouge. Killua tries to attack his brother, flipping the switch, which here is expressed by a spotlight and some lightning. And he stumbles out of the spotlight immediately, and it just stays there. I mean, at least they tried something, but it sucks that this is the most technically impressive shot in the entire show. Killua starts beating down his friends while reprising the leitmotif we'd begun the show on. Illumi joins his brother's song in unison until Killua is about to strike the final blow. Miluki and Kaluto show up to just, like, join the fun? Kaluto wails on Killua's friends for a bit before Miluki paralyzes everyone with nerve gas and Illumi launches into yet another song, We Don't Need the Spell of Light. It's just the same song that's been playing, but louder, and Miki Hazama admittedly owns it, really belting it out up there on the top platform. And hey, another harmony, and his family, oh, that's nice. Okay, wait, was that just... Let's roll it back a bit. Ha! Yep, that's certainly one way to get through to your friend. Monica should have done that shit for Sayaka, damn. Gon makes an impassioned shonen plea and seems to almost make it through to Killua. Kaneko Mitsuhashi does her absolute best to portray the inner turmoil Killua faces in the single measure of music she is given to do so. Cool! Alright! Cool! I mean, come on, you couldn't have vamped that Jaws-ass string line for a couple more seconds? Killua, unable to fight it any longer, charges at Gon to finish his torment. Will you shut up for one fucking second and let a single dramatic moment of this musical breathe for once? Yeah, so before we as an audience have even realized what's happened, Canary's hopped in from offstage to take the blow for Gon. Illumi and Gon have both called out her name, and she's already begun singing a farewell song. I mean, her presence in the basement wasn't really foreshadowed at all, but we did have references to her feelings for Killua in both acts already, so at least it feels like the musical both built this up and paid it off properly. So, yeah, Canary's dead. I do not think this actress was wearing blackface. Masami Suzuki looks like she was kinda tan in her younger days, and if you're not already familiar, stage lights will make your face look like an off character if you aren't wearing dark enough foundation, so it's pretty borderline. I will say that her wig does look like stuffed woolen socks. Putting Killua downstage here really doesn't let us see much of his reaction, especially for what's supposed to be a really pivotal moment, so this is kind of a disappointment. Illumi comes down from his perch to the sound of more Ganondorf organs and rubs salt in the wound, causing Gon to respond with the classic shonen protag line. The others agree, and prepare to leap back into the fray to avenge their dead friend, Canary, who is definitely officially canonically dead. Gon gets that righteous anger boost, but the way Junko Takeuchi holds tension in her shoulders here makes her look more like she knows the answer to the next question in Charlie McDennis.
Oh, because Dennis is a bastard man!
I think Gon's stupid jacket is actually to blame here, but nonetheless. Oh yeah, it's totally the jacket. Killua starts to break down about the inescapable curse that is his upbringing, causing Gon to step in and snap Killua out of it. Okay, who in the fuck is running your fight call here? There is barely even a moment for these actors to make eye contact. There's no opportunity for them to communicate, no anticipation for the audience. That's why the punch looks so sloppy. God damn it. So Gon launches into Your Own Path, a plea for Killua to take charge of his own life, and one of the overall better songs in this musical as far as my personal tastes are concerned. Junko Takeuchi gives an impassioned performance here, even if we lose a lot of its opening due to it, again, being aimed upstage. This here could be a tear, but especially with that jacket on and the stage lights, it's far more likely sweat. Either way, Gon's giving it his all, and so do Leopika and Kurapika as they hop in for a really, really, really nice harmony. Everyone does a little obligatory mid-song dialogue before closing it out with another round of, again, a really nice harmony. Killua seems to take their message to heart as he stares down his brother confidently before the entire thing is interrupted by...
Hisoka.
Yeah, he's back to basically resolve everything for the writers. Speaking of, oh boy, these writers really had advance notice, huh? We still haven't gotten to Hisoka doing anything like this in the anime yet. And with that, Illumi just gives up? Turns out he was doing this at Kikyo's request the entire time, who actually manages to keep her voice at a reasonable decibel level here. Kikyo explains that the Zoldycks were once destroyed by friendship and then leaves it at exactly that before just kind of petering it out. She does have a quick little waltz with her son, which is sweet, even if it is, again, utterly lacking emotional breathing room before she leaves, calling Kaluto to follow her not long after. One by one, the rest of the cast decide to fuck off themselves, with Killua thanking Canary before she heads off. And thus, together, the gang ascends the stairs to the point of the set that was once Killua's realm of torture and misery, now a tall space from which he can stand proud and address his father as an equal. And as Silva leaves the gang with a few words, they exit stage right, leaving the old man to make good on the one threat left unspoken from the manga up to this point. The group emerges into daylight, the sunshine promising a bright future for the gang as Zebra runs out for a very long-winded laugh line.
今お屋敷から電話がありまして、今夜キルア様の送別会を行うそうで、皆様にもぜひご参加いただくようにとのこと。シルバ様も一度キルア坊ちゃんのお友達を見ておきたいとお思いになられたようでして、いかがいたしましょう。という冗談を言うようにとイルミ様から頼まれまして。
Gon takes a nice whiff.
This is how your dad smells.
And Kurapika calls Leorio old. And we get a nice choreographed fun little number from our main four while Zebro just kinda hangs out and awkwardly paces around. I don't know why this man is the person who's seeing him off here. I know he trained them for a month. It was off stage. The gang meets up on the top platform for yet another lineup before we do another quick little bomb gag. before they all stroll off stage, leaving Zeburo as the final thing we see, walking directly towards the audience and beginning curtain call without even giving the musical a single beat to end with. Aw, these guys were cool. Please buy yourself some throat coat. The echinacea stuff really does the trick. And I kind of want Xeno to do another flip. Oh yeah, she deserves the first solo bow here, sure. Hey, he's still into it. I can respect that. Own it. Own it. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, Ilumi's clearly the much larger character, especially for this story, but it's probably smart not to have that bow follow Hisoka's. He was always going to get a fuck ton of applause. Quite modest applause for someone who really carried a lot of those scenes. And there goes the standing O. Sucks for whoever's out next. Oh, I am so sorry, dude. You were practically the protagonist of this one, too. Okay, so that's why they went straight into the bows, the dreaded standing ovation sing-along chorus. You keep the audience standing for long enough that the people who didn't feel inclined to stand feel very awkward not joining in. Brilliant. Oh, that's just cute. God, I'm gonna fucking die alone. Oh, hey, they're back. Leopika. I didn't know that was a ship people were particularly invested in. Well, this is certainly one hell of a victory lap. And I've seen encores for musicals, but I don't think I've seen encores for the curtain call like that. Oh, Leopika, you absolute slut, you. Well, that was gratuitous, but the lights are finally down, and with that, we've just finished Hunter x Hunter: The Nightmare of Zoldyck. So, what have we learned? Okay, nobody needs to hear Departure in a Hunter x Hunter video essay again. Much better. Nightmare of Zoldyck was a fun little experiment. Like I said, there's a lot of potential in the given source material, and I have to give them props for choosing to adapt it as opposed to a more ambitious and marketable arc. There are a few great performances among the cast, and the handful of weaker showings are from minor characters who don't detract much from the experience as a whole. However, there's an air that hangs over the entire show that makes everything feel oddly obligatory. While the arc itself is a great creative choice, its execution feels more like the completion of a musical theater adaptation checklist, regardless of each item's individual contribution to the performance. They make sure to give nearly every character their own song, regardless of whether these songs are catchy, deepen our understanding of the character, or move the plot forward. They ensure that bodies are nearly always moving around on stage, regardless of whether the scene already had enough going on to hold our interest. They devote ceaseless efforts to reminding the audience that Miluki is, in fact, fat, regardless of the fact that he hasn't been given any other characterization for the entirety of the show. I don't know just how much reign Takuya Hiromitsu was given over this as director, but above all else, he ensured that the show moved at a nearly breathless clip, especially past the intermission. This snappy pacing has a lot of benefits, as scene transitions can often be momentum killers in less well-thought-out productions. The fact that the filler second act is as entertaining as it is speaks volumes about this. Nothing actually happens in the second act that advances the plot, right up until the basement scene, meaning that the narrative more or less plateaus between the intermission and the climax, but you don't necessarily feel this while watching it. I'd imagine if there was more downtime between these back-to-back fanservice sequences, this wouldn't be the case. Unfortunately, the direction applies this quick pacing even-handedly across nearly every scene, which especially tramples on Killua's most important moments. It's kind of infuriating to see him barely bat an eye at his dad giving him the exact thing he's wanted all musical, or to have a final tearful waltz with his mother and then immediately just fucking dip. Again, I think this habit reaches its nadir when Canary sacrifices herself and we barely hold on the moment for more than a single beat. It ultimately comes down to a lack of faith in the audience to understand what they just watched. A lack of faith in the tech department to highlight moments in a creative, unique way. A lack of faith in the source material to carry a scene without constantly shuffling the performers around. This probably comes across as harsh, especially when many of these factors might have been executive mandates. But what I'm really asking for here is some more artistic confidence. Much like most art, this show is at its best when the people making it are clearly having fun with the process. Whoever came up with and choreographed Hisoka's dance was having fun. Yuki Kaida and Hozumi Goda are having fun. And even in the less fun moments of the story, there's a lot of space to be explored in terms of maximizing the impact these moments have on the audience. I may be someone who always loves seeing an artist get weirder and lean into themselves, but I can't be alone in that perspective. Ultimately, the lesson is to have a little more faith in yourself and your audience, especially in theater of all art forms. The audience has bought the tickets, they've driven out to the show, they're in their seats. There's no option to pause and come back later. You either sit down and watch the stage or you walk out. Artists can afford to get a little weird with it. Hell, you just sat through a summary of the entire musical that lasts half its length, and if you're hearing these words right now, then I was somehow able to hold your attention for all of that. A team of professionals working with a god-tier source material should have a far easier time, and maybe if they had a little more fun making it, it'd be a little more fun to watch. After all, I had fun making this fucking monstrosity. Except for the parts where I had to edit footage from Hamilton, that show's music fucking sucks!
Cause I'm rapping, 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 I'm rap, rapping, I'm rapping.